All right, today we're going to be doing LeetCode question 56, merge intervals. So for this question in particular, let's see, it's saying, given an array of intervals where interval at index I equals your start and your end, we want to merge all the overlapping intervals and return an array of non-overlapping intervals that cover all the intervals in the input. So taking a look at example one, you have your intervals array and you have multiple mini arrays within this one big array, right? And as you see, you have your start and your end, your start and your end, and your start and your end, and so on. Now there's going to be instances where they overlap, and we want to merge them, right? Merge all overlapping intervals. So 1 and 3 and 2 and 6. Well, we could see that 3 or 2 is less than 3, meaning that this should merge, right? So that should kind of give us a hint, by the way, that if the first interval at index 1 is greater than the first the second interval at index 0, then they should merge, right? As you can see, they do merge. They take the highest endpoints, put it there, and they keep the first value of the first index here. So with that, you can see we have to do this 4 times for this example, 2 times and 2 times. And now as we have an idea, not only of what they're looking for, but we kind of just mentioned some examples of how we're going to do that. How are we going to code that? That is the real question. Let's see. Well, we can say that we are given an array called intervals, right? And we want to merge. The output is going to be an array, and we're going to have merged values. How do we get to merge these values? You're going to merge based off of interval at index 0. First index is greater than second interval, or interval 1 0 index, right? Beautiful. So now as we have that written down, we kind of have a plan of what we're looking for. Let's think of a pattern, how we're going to go and achieve this. And the pattern I'm thinking of is sweeping line pattern, right? Sweeping line is basically, how do you explain it? It's like when you grab the start and end of an interval, right? You're gonna stop and update whatever you keep tracking of. So there's gonna be instances where you're gonna stop, update, and then continue. So obviously we're gonna need to store this in a big array. So you're gonna go and create that. And we're going to go and have to assort. We're going to have to sort intervals. So intervals dot sort. Why do we do this? We want to make sure that everything is in the same pattern, right? If these numbers are out of whack, then it'll be very difficult because, in instances, you see how this is increasing gradually. They need to fit that pattern or else it won't work. And then obviously you're going to have for interval and intervals. And then we should start this at 1 because for sweeping line, it's kind of like a 2-pointer S technique. And then you're going to have current, which is going to equal intervals at index 0, right? So this is going to be our first, and this is going to be our second, right? Beautiful. And with that, now we kind of have everything kept into place. What we need to do now is we need to, we'll check if it's merging first. If it's merging first, then we're going to check if interval, because interval is going to represent, for the first iteration in this example, 2, 6. So if interval at index 0 is less than current, which is going to represent the first interval, so 1 and 3 in this example, at 1, then we're going to want to merge. And if we're merging, then we're going to set, current at index 1, because current is going to be, in this iteration here, we want to keep the lowest value, but change these values. So it's going to equal the max of, so current 1 is going to be this, right? Because we're keeping 0. The max of, obviously, current 1 or interval at 1, right? Yeah. So then this should update current. So instead of 1 and 3, it should check the max of either 3 or 6. This is going to be 1, 6. And then at that point, we should, that's going to update current. Beautiful. Beautiful, 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 right? Yes. And then with that, let's see, because now we've gotten that, I actually want to visually show that. We're kind of doing this all together for the first time. Let's see. So we have our current and we have our interval, like I mentioned. In the first instance, for 1, 3, 2, 6, 8, 10, and 15, 18, right here, right? We have everything sorted. We have our first, which is current. This is why intervals, this is intervals, by the way. Intervals with an S equals this gigantic thing, right? Interval at, or for interval, which is basically here because we're starting at the first, and current is this, right? If interval at index 0, so if interval at index 0 is less than current at index 1, right? Then we want to update current. So then current is going to equal current is going to equal current at index 1, meaning that current is still going to stay the same. 1 is going to be here, but we're updating this value to 3. So what's higher, 3 or 6? Because we're looking for the max to be 6. So current becomes 1, 6. Right? Cool. So current becomes this, and the interval is going to go move, right? Beautiful. And then if that's not the case, then we're going to have an else statement, right? And we're going to just add answer.append current, because in this instance, then it'll just be normal, right? And then we just want to add that. And then we're going to update current to equal interval, right? And how that's going to look is going back to the example. Current equals 1 and 6, right? And then we're at interval. Let's take a look. If interval at index 0 is that less than current index 1? No. Then just answer.append current. So our answer you're going to add this here, right? And then we want to update current to the current interval. And then the interval obviously is iterating 1 at a time, O of n. So it goes over here. And then we do the same thing, right? We can see that current is normal. So then we're going to add 8 and 10, right? We're going to add 8 and 10. Do, right? And then obviously current goes here, and then interval stays here. And at that point, we need to, because the for loop ends, because they're now at the same place. If you take a look, the output's almost there, but we're missing the 15 and 18. So we need to do answer.append current one more time, right? And with that, as long as we return answer, this should give the right answer. I lied to you. Oh, okay. So you see how these are in 4 and 4? Yeah. You got to be an equal sign. Yes. And then let's submit and make sure all the test cases are solved. Beautiful. Okay. Okay. So recap of everything that happened, because there was a lot. We were kind of learning all that at the same time. Merge intervals. We're given an array, right? Named intervals, where intervals in index I, or intervals basically has start and end. So index 0 is start, index 1 is end, right? We want to make sure we merge everything. In order to do that, we are using the sweeping line pattern, right? We're using the sweeping line pattern, and this is the sweeping line pattern right here where we update current. So this is where pattern happens, right? You have your initials, kind of like a 2-pointer S situation, where current equals here. You start at the first index, and for the for loop, you actually start here, right? So this is the beginning of your for loop, and then you have a value, key value here, right? And then depending on certain rules, you are basically updating value, which is what's happening here. And once it gets all the way to the end, you got to make sure you add that last value to the answer, right? And then you return it.